Today we're going to make a very simple Java application where we have these accounts, which are bank accounts. We're going to have an application where we're able to display these bank accounts and withdraw money from them, deposit money from them, as well as transfer money from one account to another. So it's going to be pretty cool, hopefully. So we're going to use NetBeans for this project because it has a good GUI builder thing. Arguably good, but definitely very simple. You could use anything you want actually, but in order to avoid you could hand code the GUI elements, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's just easier to drag and drop, honestly. So anyway, we're gonna start with a new project in NetBeans here, and yeah, we're gonna start. Let's see, we'll call it Simple Bank App. Simple Bank App. Simple Bank App. And here we have source packages, default package. Here we create a new JFrame form, and what that does, we'll call this Bank App. And what that does is that it creates a GUI thingy here, and you can go to source code to see the code that's automatically generated from creating a JFrame Java file inside NetBeans. But here we can just drag and drop elements, as you can see here, which is really cool. And you can kind of see the code here that automatically gets generated as we drag and drop stuff. So for example, if I run this, if I run this, I'll just have the window here with the stuff I put in, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna put this label here. Yeah, so I have 4 labels here that I drag from the swing controls. Under swing controls, there's label. I'm gonna put a bunch of text fields here, which will display the customer name, the open date of their account, and their balance here. We'll also have a drop down menu on the top, which we'll be able to select different accounts from. So this GUI thing should be fairly straightforward. I'm just making it look slightly better so it doesn't look completely horrible. So in order to get the drop down box, I think we get combo box. Yeah, combo box is the drop down box here. And then we're gonna add a bunch of buttons for functionality. And put them wherever. And we can finish up by changing these names. You can just double click on the labels. So here's gonna be account number, right? So inside these choices, essentially what I want is I want to be able to select different account numbers. So if I press play now, I get a drop down list, which I can select stuff. And I want the account numbers to be there. So in the long run, here we double click again. We put the customer name in here. For example, Steven Jobs would display here, and we want this to be non-editable, so we go to properties and we uncheck editable so that it's grayed out, so that the user can't type anything here. See, I can't type anything, but here I can type stuff because that's editable. So let's change that as well. Uncheck the editable inside properties and uncheck the editable inside properties. And here I'm gonna be right back. So yeah, I'm just gonna name all this. See, customer name, and then what's next? The open date of the account, right? So we're gonna read off this text file and create a bunch of accounts, and we want them to display here, and we want to be able to use these buttons as different sort of functions. Let's see. So here we have account open date, open date, and here we have balance, right? Yeah. So if I double click some of the elements, it goes to the source code to show me kind of how it was generated. I mean, you definitely want to read about this later on, about how really what we're actually doing, or what the code is actually doing. But for now, we can just go to design view and sort of use it, do the easy way. All right. I'm gonna delete these this text fields here in the text property. Just leave it blank. Later on, we're gonna fill it up with the accounts. This one, I'm gonna call it deposit. Deposit. This one I'm gonna call withdraw. This one transfer, because I'm gonna be able to transfer money to different accounts. And the last one I'm gonna call exit, in which we exit the program. And let's just make these like the same size so it looks better. Okay, so if you notice, this is actually I believe metal themed, so it looks kind of interesting. So when I play it, it kind of has a metal theme to it, which is good enough. You can also change it if you want inside the code. I think it's in here. Look and feel. Yeah, you can just comment this out. Watch, just to demonstrate. If I Control X this and I save it and then I press play, it looks different, you see. But then I undo what I just did. Did I undo that? Yeah, I did. So now, so yeah, look and feel setting. I think you can set this to different looks. See, Nimbus. You can change it to whatever I want. Anyway, let's create a new class, and we'll call this accounts. So we're gonna create an account class. Create an account class in which we store all these accounts inside of. So in account, what do we have? We have an account number, account holder name, the date that they open, and their balance. So we have 4 elements, right? So inside the account class, for every account we have 4 elements. We'll make them private. We'll use the account number as a string, even though technically it's an integer, but when we read off the text file, it's going to be a string anyway. So it's much easier to, we're going to have to parse it eventually, so let's just call it a string. Private string, account number, right? Private string. What else do we have? Account holder. Account holder have a string open date, which is the date that they open their bank account. I'm just gonna make sure this is recording. Yeah, because that would be awkward if so the last element is gonna be double because we're gonna have to do calculations with that balance later on. So now that we have 4 elements inside this class called account, let's create a constructor so that whenever we create a account object, we can give these things initial values. Yeah, so let's create an constructor here called account, and inside here we're going to take 4 different arguments. Okay, and for the sake of not confusing you, I'm going to use different variables. I'm just going to abbreviate account number. So it's going to take 4, this constructor is going to take 4 arguments. Every time I create an account object, I have to call the constructor, which takes these 4 arguments, right? Or any 4 arguments really, as long as it's a string, another string called account holder, but we're going to name these different variables so that we can distinguish between the class's attributes and the arguments that we're passing into the class. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay, just follow along for now. String date. And lastly, we need a double, which is the account balance here, right? So whenever we call this constructor, we're saying we create a new object, a new account object, and we're gonna set these. We're gonna put 4 parameters in here. So what do we want to do with these? We want to set the account's values equal to the arguments that we pass inside the constructor. Anyway, yeah. I hope everyone's day is going well so far. Yeah, so let's initiate these values here by saying this account number is equal to account number. So this account number is equal to the argument that we pass, which is account number. This dot account holder is equal to account holder argument. This date is equal to, this open date is equal to date argument passed into account constructor, and this balance is equal to account balance. Okay, so we set these 4 variables equal to the arguments that we pass inside the constructor. Okay, so now whenever we create an account object, we can just pass it 4 variables and the account is created, right? So let's give you a quick example of how this works. Let's go into the main method, ignore the the initial GUI thing here that's going on here. We'll go under it and let's create an account object called ACC, and we instantiate it with the equal sign, keyword new, construct, and we call the constructor and we pass in the required arguments into the constructor. So the first one is the account number, which is a string actually, so we have to pass in a string, 999. Second argument is also a string, which is the name of the account holder, and in this case I'm gonna put George Take. George Take. George Take. Okay. And the date. The date. It doesn't matter. 02/21/7/18. Okay. I was gonna put 17, but I misclicked there. Okay, so that's a string date, and then the last one is the account balance. So we're gonna give George Take $1. So now we have an account called ACC, right, which has these 4 arguments. So ACC is owned by George Take. The number is 999. date open was February 21st, 2018, and it has a balance of $1. $1. The almighty dollar. Yeah. So how does this work, right? So let's say, for example, if one of these strings were public, that was a strange misspelling. Okay, so one of them is public. So here, if we do account number, let's print this out. Let's see, does this shortcut work? Oh, sout. So I did a shortcut here. I type sout and I press tab, so it automatically generates a system out print line. And here I pass in acc.account number. It will show me the account number of the account that I started. So if I press play here, kind of ignore the GUI, look at the console, you can see it prints out the account number. Now this is just to demonstrate how this object really works. This is one instance of an account, right? And this is, in general, this is really bad practice to directly call variables from an object. So we don't usually do that. We usually use getters and setters for encapsulation purposes. But that was just for demonstration. So let's keep this private for now. Yeah, because it's better practice. Let's see. Yeah, so we can delete this now. That was just a demonstration of creating an account. So now let's create the rest of our arguments that the rest of our methods that we need. For example, we need to, inside our account, we want to withdraw, right? So we create a method called withdraw, and we'll leave it to void, meaning it doesn't return anything. But it should take an argument. That's a double, which is the amount that we want to take out, right? So in this withdraw method, we want to subtract the balance here. So this dot balance minus m, right? And there's a problem with this because it's not a statement. And what we actually want is to set the balance to the balance minus the amount that we want to withdraw. And in that case, our balance is going to subtract the amount that we want to withdraw, which is going to be sad. So if I withdraw $1 from George Take, his balance would be $1. His balance would be $0, right? Because 1 minus 1 is 0. And his balance is going to be 0. So we want to do this sort of the same thing with deposit, except in deposit we take the same argument, but this time we want to add the money back to the account. So we do plus m. So this balance is equal to the balance plus m. Or let's give this a more meaningful name, and we'll call it amount. It really doesn't matter. These are just names, but I just want to make it more meaningful. And then lastly, we'll have a transfer method, which is also void, which means it returns nothing. And this one's going to be a little more tricky. We want to take two arguments. First, we want to take the account object that we want to transfer money to. So in one account, I may want to transfer money to another account, right? And in order to do that, I have to create an argument here for account, so I can specify the account that I want to transfer this amount to, which I'll pass into the method, right? Yeah, I hope I'm not going too fast here. But in essence, if I'm transferring money, what is it that I'm really doing? What I'm really doing is I'm withdrawing from the current account, which is this, right? This current account. I'm withdrawing money, and then I'm depositing money to the account that I want to specify here in account A. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying I want to withdraw money from this bank account, the amount that I specify, and then I want to deposit I want to deposit money to the account that I'm specifying here, which I call A, right? So I do A dot deposit amount, right? So I'm withdrawing money from this account and depositing into another account which I specify as A, if that makes sense. So now that we have the account class sort of finished, let's create a new class called let's create a new class to deal with reading this text file and filling up the GUI with these accounts. So we're going to store these values into many different accounts. We're going to create 5 accounts, right? So let's do it. So let's create a new class here. We'll call it utility, because we're going to utilize it to handle processing our text file. Utility. In our utility class, we want to have a method that reads the text file and puts these all instantiates all these values, or puts all these values inside accounts. So here we want to put we want to make a method. So for now, let's just do a void method, public void read file, and it's going to take an argument, which is the file name, which is a string, and in this case it's going to be accounts.txt, or the location of your text file plus the file name. But for now, we're just going to make the argument, and we're going to call this method later so that we can use it later in the main method in bankapp.java here. But for now, let's just keep it this way. Here, I want to use a class called file reader, which reads files. I'm going to call the file reader object fr. And in order to instantiate this object, I'm going to do equal sign, keyword new, file reader, and it will read the file. But in here we have to pass the string, which is the file name, which we pass into read file here, by the way. And it's complaining because I gotta import file reader here. So let's just press this thing here and import it. And the thing is, this method here throws an exception, or there's an exception that we haven't handled yet. And the idea is that in case the file is not found, or doesn't exist, or we don't have access to it, it's going to throw an error, which we have to deal with, right? So instead of just calling this by itself, we're going to have to wrap it inside a try brackets. So try, we got to wrap it inside a try catch statement. And so what we're saying is we're going to try this, and if there's an exception, let's catch the exception. So this is called a try catch statement. We're going to catch inside parentheses, we're going to catch the exception, and we'll name the exception E. And in here we have another set of brackets, and we can simply print out the exception. And now the compiler won't complain, right? Because we're doing our part in catching the exception in case it occurs, in the case that file name doesn't exist, or we don't have access to it. So here, let's also create a buffered reader called BR, which takes the file reader as the argument. And what this does is this is a more efficient way of reading the file. And then we have to import this as well. Add import. So here we imported buffer reader and file reader. This is a more efficient way of processing the file. Yeah. And we're gonna try to we're gonna read the text file, right? So we're gonna do something interesting. So we're gonna write a while loop, and this while loop is gonna represent while we read each line of the text file, we're gonna do something with each line. We're gonna do something with this line, do something with this line, doing something with this line, until there's no lines left, in which case our while condition breaks. So it's a very simple. Here we do before we do our while loop, I'm gonna create a string called line, and it's gonna be null, right? Or it's not gonna be null, it's just gonna be nothing. It's just gonna be its default value, which is null, I think, anyway. But here we're gonna set it equal to br.readLine, which is a method of the buffered reader, which reads each line, which reads the line, and then the next line, and then the next line of the text file here. Line, next line, next line, next line, etc. And while the line is equal to the string, so line will essentially be this whole string here. While that whole thing is not null, we can do stuff with the line. So each iteration is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to split the line using this as a delimiter. So when this is going to be the first element, second element, third element, and fourth element of a string array. So we're going to create a string array that contains those 4 elements called current account equal to, right, and equals to, we're gonna use the line, which is that line in the text file, which is each line in the text file. We're gonna split the line using the delimiter less than, greater than, which returns an array of elements 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 split by this 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3 split by these less than and greater than signs. So I have 0, 1, 2, 3, and I can assign them to variables like as just regular strings. So I can say string account number equals to current account element 0, which is the account number, right? String. The next one is the name, string account holder equals to current account 1, and then the string date equals to current account, or open date, I think, open date, current account 2, and the last one is actually a double. So but the thing is, when we read the text file, it's still a string, so we're gonna have to parse it using the static class double, the method called parse double, and we want to look at the third element of the array, current account, but we're gonna set this to a double called balance. So we parse the third element into a double so we can do calculations and stuff. And actually, because in our account we specified that the fourth element has to be a double whenever we create an account, so this is gonna have to be a double. Now we can create an account with these elements by calling the account constructor. So we can say account acc equals, and to instantiate this object we say new account, and we pass in the arguments, right? So the first argument is the account number, which we got from the text file here by splitting using this delimiter, getting the 0th element, right? The next element is account holder, open date, And the last element is a double, which is the balance. So now we stored each line of this as an account object, but we didn't do anything with this object. So when this loop runs, it's gonna go boom, create an account, do nothing, boom, create an account, boom, create an account, boom, create an account. But we need a way to store these accounts or save them in some fashion, right? So I'm going to store them into an array list, which is basically like an array, except it stores objects. So the way to do that is I'll just type ArrayList and do the less than greater than. And in here we specify the objects that we want the array list to store. In this case, we want to store accounts, and we'll call this accounts equals to, and we instantiate it with equals keyword new, class name, and we got to do this less than equal to, and this is sort of the syntax here, diamond notation and parentheses. We could also type account in here, but it doesn't matter, we don't have to. And we have to import it, so I'm just gonna press on the light bulb and import. So now, in order to put each account into, in order to store the account before we go to the next line, we just have to add it to accounts by using the add method here, and we want to, it takes the argument of an account object so that I can add the elements, the accounts into the accounts array list, right? So the accounts here are added into the array list accounts. Let's see, yeah. So now instead of this method being void, I'm gonna return this. I'm actually gonna return an array list of accounts. I'm gonna return this array list so that I can kind of grab this this array list of accounts. So if I instead of void, I put array list accounts, meaning it returns this object, right? And here it complains because I actually have to under my catch statement, which means I tried all this stuff, boom, 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 right? And I try to add it into accounts, and if everything went well, right, there was no exception, so I go all the way down here and I want to return this accounts that I added a bunch of accounts to based on this text file, right? So now I have all the accounts, and now I can do stuff with them, right? I can withdraw money from them, I can deposit money into them, etc. So that's pretty cool. So now let's go back to our GUI here, and we can see that there's a list here, and we want to populate this list with all our accounts and display this correctly. So in order to do that, first let's get rid of this model here. If you go to the drop down list and go to properties, model, you can delete all of these elements so that you just get a blank drop down menu. We'll go to source code here, and let's grab those so let's grab those that array list of accounts that we're gonna read. Remember that this is just a method, right? We didn't call it yet, and we don't know which file we're reading. We're gonna specify that we're gonna read from accounts.txt. So in here we'll create an array list of accounts called accounts equals new. Instead of new, we're gonna actually assign it to an existing array list, which we're gonna grab from utility. And I don't want to have to instantiate this as an object, so I'm just gonna make this a static method. And what that means is I can simply call this method directly without instantiating a utility object. So it means I can just type utility.read file. And inside read file, it takes an argument of the file name here, in which case I would type accounts.txt, or the location of your text file, such as, for example, desktop/accounts.txt, or backslash, or I think it's slash actually. I forgot. But here we want to import ArrayList into this class because that was not done. Let's delete this comments just to make it look more clean. And instead of actually doing this in thin air, let's put it inside a method called initiate accounts. Right, initiate accounts. Void. Inside initiate accounts, first we want to grab the accounts from the account text file here. Right, so we run all this code to the accounts text file, we return an array list, and we assign it to a variable called accounts. And now let's populate the list. So in order to do that, first we gotta give meaningful names, variable names to each GUI element, right? So for account name, I want the drop down list to show all the account numbers. So I'm just gonna go here, go to code, and if you look at variable name, it's called jcombobox1. I'm gonna name it to something more meaningful called account drop down. You can name it whatever you want, but just name it here. So now that I have account drop down, go to source code, go down, you can see that the name has been changed to account drop down, which is a jcombo box of strings. Of strings. But I want to add the accounts into the list. So this is interesting. So if I do account drop, so let's loop through the accounts array list and add each account into the combo box. So drop account. So let's do the for loop first. This is an enhanced for loop. For every object account A in accounts array list, we're gonna go to the account drop down, and we're gonna add A. And it's gonna complain because A is not a string. Right? Is that why it's complaining? A is not a string. I think that's why it's complaining. Oh no, it's because it's add item. Yeah. And it's still complaining because A is not a string. And in order to let's see, A is not a string. Is there a way to get this combo box to store different oh yeah, there is. So here, if I go to my drop down list and I go to type parameters, I can actually change this type into accounts instead of strings. So now it takes, so what I did was I went to the drop down list, went to code, type parameters, and I put account into the type, so that now it shouldn't complain anymore because I put the accounts into the drop down list. So now if I play this, let's see what happens. Oh, actually nothing happens because this is just a method that I didn't call yet. It's not used, so nothing will happen actually. See, nothing happened. Let's call this method inside the constructor. So after initiate all the GUI components, this is automatically generated code. After all the stuff is initialized, I want to initiate accounts, right? So now if we run this, the drop down box should fill up now, and it's not filling up. And the reason is because my accounts.txt file is not found, and so I should actually put it in here. So I should actually go to my simple bank app and create a new text file somehow. Let's see here. How do I create a new file? Other? Is there a text file? No. Other. TXT, empty file. Yeah, so we're gonna have to do this manually. So I wonder if I just go here. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do this manually. Here I have a command line. I'm just gonna let's see, go to my desktop. I think it's in documents. Documents, I think it's a NetBeans project. Yeah, there it is. So simple bank app. Simple bank account. This is called simple bank app. So I wanna remove simple bank account. Okay, so now I'll have a simple bank app, and I go in here, and I'll just do a touch command, touch accounts.txt. Okay, so now I can go here and I can see accounts.txt has been created, and we'll just populate this. I'll definitely provide this to you if you need it, or you can make up your own. Doesn't really matter. So populate that. We'll save it. Now we have the accounts text file inside the working directory of the simple bank app. Yeah, you won't be able to see it in project view. You have to go to file view to actually see it. But anyway, it should work now. And now we see something very interesting, which is that the objects are being, the accounts are being instantiated. I mean, being added to the drop-down list, but not their names. I'm guessing this actually has to be a string type. Sorry for the confusion. And in order to get, instead of adding the account, I can add to string. And if I add to string, then inside my accounts, I'm gonna have to override the toString method. So I'm gonna type add override, and here I'm gonna do a public void toString. I'm gonna override the toString method. I think it's string. And here I want to return this account number. So basically what I did was I overrided the toString method to only return the account number string, and then here I added that to the drop down list. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so now I have all the accounts in here. Initiate accounts. So now we got to deal with the selection part. So if we go to events and go to action performed, we can actually click this drop down here and press this, and it'll take you back to the source code, and you'll see here account drop down list action performed. So every time we set we select the account in the drop down list, we're gonna have to set the text fields, right? So we're gonna have to set the text field to display the correct information. So first, let's add, since these are private variables, we can't really access them directly. So we're gonna have to create get methods. So here we can say public string, right? Get account, get account holder, for example, and we'll return this dot account holder, and we'll probably want to capitalize A. That's awkward. String get open date, get open date, return this dot open date. Right, so we get the date, we get the, and then we also have to get the balance. So the balance is get balance, and all it does is it returns, and this is our way of accessing. Sorry, this is a double. So this is our way of accessing our account variables publicly, right? Because these are private variables. So when I use this method, it's going to return the private variable here, which is nice. That's called encapsulation. So now if I go back to my source code, and you can see that this handles the event in which I select. So if just to do an example, I'm going to print 1 every time an action is performed on the drop-down list. So in the start, the event is already triggered, right? And if I select a new one, it's triggered again. Select new one, triggered again. So every time I select, the code inside here is run or executed. So what I want to do is I actually want to set inside here, every time I select the account, I want it to display correctly in these 3 fields. So we'll do first we'll set an account called current account, which will equal to the account drop down dot get selected item. And we'll cast this to an account type. Right, so what we're doing here is we're saying there's going to be a problem here, because when I get the selected item, it's going to be a string, which is A. That's awkward. That's really awkward. Oh, it's the string. Alright, the item is a string. Huh. The item is a string. Oh man, this is a little bit complicated. Kind of want to do A anyway. I kind of want to do this. And if I go to design, I set this as account. I don't think it works though. I don't think it works. Okay, it works. I'm sorry, guys. No, I don't have to cast this, right? I still have to cast it. Interesting. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. So basically what I did was I had to change the drop-down list to accept account types. And the reason is because I want whenever I select an item, I actually want the whole account object. So I'm going to put accounts in here. And the accounts that I put in here are the accounts from the accounts.txt file, right? But the problem is when I display them on the drop-down list, you see the account object, which is a bunch of gibberish. But apparently, I think combo box or the drop-down list actually reads the toString method of your object to display. So in this case, I overrided the toString method to display the account number, so that even though these are objects in here, it will run the toString method, which returns the number to display, which is awesome. So when I create an account called current account here equals to account dropdown list get select item, it's an account type, but the reason we have to cast it as an account type is because originally this is just a abstract object. For all Java knows, this could be any object. It doesn't know. So we explicitly cast it as account because we know that each one of those elements is an account and not just any object, right? Yeah, if you didn't understand that, that's okay, but I hope you understood like at least 40% of that. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, take some time to digest because it's kind of complicated. But not really, I guess. People are smart. You guys are smart. I guess I'm just a dumb one. Yeah, so now we want to fill up these text fields, right? Based on this current account. So here we wanna set a meaningful name. So this is the customer field. We'll lowercase c in customer to follow the convention of camel case variables. Go to the next one, date field, and the last one we do balance field. Okay, balance field, and in our event handler, every time we select an account, we want to fill up customer field dot set. We want to fill up this text with the current account dot get what was it, get account holder parentheses, and get account holders, the getter method we set earlier, which gets the account holder, which is the customer's name. Account holder, customer's name, right? We want to set the next field called date field dot set text to current account dot get date or get open date, and parentheses here since we're calling a method, right, that takes no arguments, which returns the string open date, right? Set text. Then the third field is the, oh, you see it works now. So every time I select an account, it fills this in based on what I have in this accounts.txt file here. That's pretty cool, right? Tony Tiger, Gilly Bates. Now the last one is the balance field. And did I set that to variable? I believe I did. I believe I did, but I'm not 100% sure. Balance field. Yeah, I did. So now this is a little bit more complicated, I think. Can I just set text as current account dot get balance? I believe the answer is no. Oh, I guess you can. No, you can't. The reason is because it's not a string. So we have to do string.parse. Wait, is it? Can we just parse string? Not sure if this works. Oh, I believe it's called value of. String.value of is the method to cast a double into a string. So now this should work perfectly okay. Ah, you see. Very nice. Except that one decimal thing, which we can deal with for now. But every time I select an event, this runs, right? Current account equals to get selected item, which is the account. Set field, boom, boom, boom. And now these buttons don't work. Of course. Very simple. For the exit button, whoops. For the exit button, we can just so if I press this exit button here, we need to give these meaningful names as well. So I go to properties. Under variable name, I'm gonna name it exit. Under events, on exit action performed, I'm gonna press this button. It's gonna take me to the code here. You can see exit button action performed. And here we wanna, there's a method to exit the application. We just type system.exit 0, which means no problems. We exit without a problem. So now when we run it, wait, let me close this one. So now when we run it and we press exit, it just exits the application like it should. Right? Great. So now the other ones are kind of more complicated, but not really, actually. Let's just do them. Let's finish this tutorial. Deposit. So I go to properties and I go to code. I want to give it meaningful name, right? So I want to name this variable name to deposit button. Double click. Sorry, I didn't go back to design view. I go to properties again. Go to events and you see deposit button action performed. I press it, takes me to this deposit button action performed. Here I actually want to show a message, so I'm going to call the JOptionPane class, which gives me access to a bunch of alert message dialog boxes. Show, and I want to show the an input dialog. The first argument of the input dialog, this is for user inputting, right? So you can either say this or you can say no. I'm just gonna put this, which is the frame. It just means the current frame that we're in, So this second argument is a message for the user. Enter amount to deposit. The third argument is the title, I believe. The title of the window, which is another string. So this is the title of the dialog box, and I'll demonstrate. And then the last is the type of message it is, and here it takes an integer actually, but you can access these integers by just calling you can just do, let's just do plain message, joption plain message, and we do semicolon here. And what you got to understand is that this array, sorry, not array, this input dialog actually returns a value, which is the user input. So the user input is a string, and it's the amount that we're asking the user to input. Now we want to parse the string into a double so we can do our withdrawals, etc. Our withdrawals. Something interesting to note. I actually feel like we want this outside of this method here, and I'll explain why in a bit. But actually we want this array list to be accessible outside, so that whenever I make a deposit, I can edit the accounts and outside, right? Yeah, because after I initiate the accounts, then I still have the accounts outside the class to work with. So in my deposit, I actually want to parse amount into a double. So I'll do double.parse double amount, right? And I'll set this as a double amount. Here I'll call this amount string instead. So amount string, and the equal sign here. Okay. So amount string is an amount string, which I parse into a double by calling double.parse double. So now I have a double, which is the amount that the user inputted, right? So now I want to actually use these withdraw and deposit methods that I coded earlier. So in here we want to say whatever the current account is, so I'm gonna put current account outside as well, so I can use it actually. Account current account, and here we don't need to instantiate, we can just say current account. So now we set this account equal to whatever's here, whatever we selected, and now we can access current account inside the deposit button action perform method, and we'll say current account dot deposit amount, and this will deposit, which will run this code here, deposit the amount that I enter in here. And then once I deposit the money though, I'm gonna have to redisplay, I'm gonna have to reset the balance, right? So if I want to reset the balance, I will do I will set the text field again. So current, so and then so the balance field will be set text, and here I want to do string dot value of current account. I can just copy and paste this code here actually, because now once we deposit the money into the current account, then the balance field the current account deposit is going to change, right? The balance is going to change. So so now we have to reset the balance field into the new balance. So let's test our code to see if it works. So for joyriding, I'm going to press deposit. It's going to have this J option pane, enter amount to deposit. Let's say I put 1,000. I press OK. And as you can see, the amount changed here. The amount changed. So now let's try again. And we'll put 45 cents. And the amount changed again. Very cool, very cool. So we can do the same thing with the withdraw method. So withdraw. Go to properties, action performed. We have to name this variable actually to withdraw button, and then we go to events, press withdraw button, action performed, and here we'll just copy and paste the code from deposit. But instead of depositing, we want to change these words, right, to withdraw, and here we change this to withdraw. And instead of depositing, we want to use the withdraw method, and then we want to set the field again. If you're ambitious, you could actually abstract this into one method. Into one method outside here, and just call it using an argument, either deposit or withdraw, and run the same amount of code, so you don't have to copy this code twice. You can just abstract it to one method if you're ambitious. But for now, we just go the easy route, and we'll try this. So if I withdraw $1,999, it will be negative $343. Interesting. We can deal with this negative if we want to, actually. But let's deposit and withdraw. So it works. Great. And now let's do transfer. And transfer, we kind of do the same thing, right? Transfer. It's a little bit more tricky. We'll call it transfer. Okay, and then we go to events, action performed, transfer action performed, and we go to this code here, and let's copy and paste this for now. This time though, we take two arguments with transfer, right? Enter the amount to transfer, and the title is transfer. But now we want another window. Sorry, my computer froze. Just kidding. Oh, that's awkward. Let's exit this. And reopen NetBeans. Oh, this is really awkward. No thanks. Okay, so we're back to where we were. So the transfer action perform button. This time we want another menu. We want another dialog to get the user. For some reason my enter button doesn't work on that one spot. Not sure why. Alright, can I just okay, whatever. So anyway, we want this we want another one of these, except this one is gonna be called account number. And this account number is gonna be the account number that we're transferring to. And here, enter account to transfer to. So we want to ask the user for an account, right? And yeah, so instead of withdrawing, we want to transfer. And the first one is, oh, this is going to be a string, right? This is going to be a string. It's a little tricky because we need the actual account object and not the string. So we want to say account transfer account equals to we want to have an account called transfer account, and we want to loop through the array list of accounts for object account A in accounts. For object account A in accounts, we want to check if a dot get is called account number. If a dot get account number, I don't even have get account number. We can use toString method. That's interesting. So a dot toString, which returns the account number, is equals to ignore. No, there's no ignore case because it's a number. Equals to account number. Then we want to say transfer account equals to A. And if this is true, we want to break out of the loop actually. So we're looping through all our accounts, which is an array list of accounts, and we're checking to see if inside of the accounts, whichever account matches the account number that the user inputted, then we'll set transfer account equal to that account that the user inputted. And then in the transfer method, the first argument is the account, right? And the second argument is the amount that we want to actually transfer. Account. Okay. Transfer account. Huh. Might not have been initialized. Yeah, that's a problem. Because let's see. This should be null, right? Yeah, it should be null. And we gotta write an if statement. If transfer account is null. So if transfer account is not null, then do the transfer, right? Do the transfer. And set the balance equal to the new amount. Yeah. Do the transfer. And if not, we can actually send a warning, but I'm too lazy to make the warning. So we can test this, right? So we'll go to 1001. We'll transfer, enter account to transfer to 1002. Okay. Enter amount to transfer. 1,459. So now I'm account 2. So you can see here the difference is what it was transferred to this account. You see, I go back to 101 and it's still 197. See, so transfer works, deposit works, withdraw works. The last thing we need to do is to save all our information back into the text file. Back into the text file, which is here. We want to save the changes, right? So every time we complete an action, every time we deposit, every time we withdraw, every time we transfer. So we could this is like the only way we could actually do it is we have to rewrite all the information. So I can, in my utility, since I have a read file method, I can also create a write file method. So I'm going to create a static method called write file, and it's going to take an argument, which is the file name again, which is accounts.txt, right, which we'll call later. And the idea is similar, right? We're going to try something. I guess in here we take two arguments. We're going to take an array list of accounts called accounts, and we're going to take the file name, and we're going to loop through for let's make a we're going to loop through the array list of accounts, account A in accounts. For account A in accounts, we're going to try to write, right? So we're going to try this. We're going to try file writer equals to new file writer file name. And the reason we have to try is because there might be a condition in which the file name doesn't exist, or we can't access the file. I mean, the file name doesn't exist, I don't think is a problem, but not accessing the file is a problem, I believe. So we have to catch that exception here, which I explained earlier, and we can simply print out the exception, and we have to import this. And we need to name this, right? So file writer fw equals to new file writer, and the file name is the argument, and we're going to do the same thing we did up here with buffered reader. We're going to write buffered writer, which is a more efficient way of writing to the file. Goes to new buffered, and it takes the file reader as an argument, and we got to import that as well. So just press the light bulb, press import, it should import here. And now, since we're looping through the accounts since we're looping through the accounts A, we want to write, right? We want to write, what do we want to write? First we want to write a dot get account number, I believe. Get account number. Oh. Get. I'm sorry. It's a.to string. I never made a get account number method, which gives me a string. Sorry. This is not capital. Plus a dot. The next one is account number. Get account number. Oh wait, no, sorry. Get account holder, right? Which is the name. And get open date. And then the last one is the balance. String dot value of. And we want to do a dot get balance, which returns a double that we're parsing to a string, which I explained earlier. Now here's one caveat, or one thing that we need to do. In between each of these, we gotta add this delimiter here. We're gonna add this delimiter here, right? And then, yeah, and then on the very end, we're gonna add a new line. This means I'm gonna write for every account in account list, I'm gonna write the account number, this account holder, which is a name, this, open date, this, and then the new balance, which is brand new, right? It will have changed because we use deposit, withdraw, transfer, etc. And then new line so that we can go to the next account and accounts and keep writing. So we have to rewrite the entire text file basically. And there's a few things that I forgot to do that's very important actually. Very, very important, and I can't believe I forgot. But here, once we do all the writing, we actually have to close. So after this while loop, we actually have to do a method called close. That's very embarrassing because this is very important. So once I try all this, once I try all this, outside the for loop, I gotta do bw.close. Yeah, I actually have to close the file or else it's gonna give me problems. I actually have to close these or else it's gonna keep processing, which is really bad actually. I don't think I'm even able to remove this. Alright, I'm gonna copy accounts because now basically my Java program is running this and I can't really modify this, so I'm gonna have to remove it using the command prompt here. This is actually git bash, which is really cool. I like it. I'm actually gonna copy accounts.txt into / right, and then I'm gonna remove accounts.txt, and then and then as you can see accounts.txt is gone, but I'm gonna copy move the .txt into the current directory. Yeah, now I have accounts.txt again. Great. And the reason I did that is because I didn't close my reader or my writer, which is terrible. Yep. So now every time I make a deposit action performed, every time I make a deposit, let's see, I want to actually write a file. Account utility, write file, accounts.txt. Okay, that's what I want to do. Sorry, this is just called utility. I think that's the right order of the arguments, right? Yeah. So every time I make a change, I'm going to reread the array list and rewrite into accounts.txt. So deposit, I have to do that. Withdraw, I have to do that. And last but not least, transfer. Transfer, I have to do that as well if the transfer account is not null. So now let's take a look at accounts.txt and let's run this. And so if I, for example, deposit $1,000 into Joe Ryden's bank account, I have a bug here. Let's see, I think it's because I closed it in the wrong place. This is tricky. This is very tricky. The for loop is here. Let's delete the for loop. And the for loop should actually be here. Right. And then the close should be outside the for loop, I believe. Let's edit this again. Okay, so now my accounts.txt is filled up again. I put the for loop inside here so that I close it after the for loop, so I don't get this problem where I only get the last account. So let's try again. So in my application, Joe Ryden, I'm gonna deposit $1,000, and it should change. There you go. I deposited 1,000 and it changed. Go to 1,004, withdraw. Withdraw more money than I have and I get negative balance. You can actually fix that if you want. Very simple fix. I can transfer money. So from Gilly Bates, I'm gonna transfer 100 account. I'm gonna transfer to Steven Jobs. $100 or $199. Yeah, so transferred $199 twice to Steven Jobs from Gilly Bates. Boom, boom. All right. So yeah, some enhancements you can do. You can, you can validate to see if the user input a negative number. So you can't deposit negative numbers. You can validate to see that the deposit is valid. If it's just gibberish, you're gonna get an exception. In this case, just nothing happens. You can tell the user like that they did something wrong, or you don't have to do anything actually. Or you can limit to only positive numbers. So those are some enhancements you can do on your own. But yeah, that's the end of my tutorial. Congratulations for making it through, and our application is complete. Yeah, another enhancement you can do, you can change the look of this just by going to the look and feel, and here you can change this to, for example, there's a couple of choices. I think you can do metal, and if you do metal, then it looks like this, looks like that. But Nimbus is nice, it's not bad. So I'm just gonna keep it as that. So congratulations for making it through, and good luck. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hope I didn't bore you to death, or hope you had a good sleep after this